Chapter 41-41. Manticore's First Dungeon. 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. BZZZT. Come on. Get up. It's time to go. Raven, Raven. A soft voice filled with energy began to chirp. A naked brown body with huge breasts fresh out of the shower was jumping around his room as she wiped herself dry with a towel. Look, this tasty brown ass, wake up. Fuck, I hate this shit. Raven and Lilith slept last night around 5 o'clock a.m. Currently, the alarm he was sure to have disabled was now buzzing with the most annoying and infuriating sound, showing him the time was only 9 o'clock a.m. Oi. Put your fat ass away. Let me sleep. Raven spoke with a hoarse and deep voice. His throat felt dry and a little sore as he tried to swallow, a throbbing headache in the back of his skull as if someone was crushing him with giant hands. Don't you like them? I saw so many videos where you licked the ass of that. Oi. What the fuck have you been watching? Don't you know how to be prim and proper? Humph. Lilith seemed a little different from before. Her attitude and jokes were much more relaxed. In the past, she would run away or appear to be forcing herself. Now he felt she was just unhinged, and now she had a tail. Her buttocks swayed, the soft skin wet and shimmering as her beautiful brown skin dripped with water. A thick black tail swung through the air, about 2 fingers with a strange tip, like a plunger, but the lip was sealed. When I asked her what it was for, she looked shy and embarrassed. It makes me curious, damn it. Raven rolled off his bed, sick of this girl's lack of defense and virtue, walking around with her ass hanging out, trying to tease him. The moment he moved, his body felt slight pain as if he had drained the blood from his body. He could feel the warmth of her body as he slapped his hand onto her ass, feeling the soft, squishy meat of her ass between his fingers. Lilith let out a slight yelp, suddenly jumping from his touch, and snapped her face towards Raven with a glare like she wanted to kill him. He acted oblivious, with a broad smile on his charming face, watching her funny reactions while his hand caressed her soft buttocks. Her little violet eyes looked at him as they widened. Ha! Why are you touching my ass? It feels nice. Get your damn hand off me, don't squeeze it, you fucking orc. Don't move your fingers there. Clean your mouth out, stop acting like a little slut. Damn thirsty dog. Who's a dog? Bastard, I'll bite that damn huge dick off. Oh. So you'll give me oral. Go on then, here nice and hard just for your cute brown ass. Lilith's face looked angry as her face became red. Her beautiful purple eyes looked like she might cry before she shook her behind, pushing his hand away. Batting away his thick forearm with her tail with a slight smack as he managed to get one last slap of her ass, enjoying its glorious jiggle. Fuck you. Anytime, her body suddenly began to glow with a bit of pink light, her body slipping out of his sight as she appeared near the door, her middle fingers greeting him, but her towel dropped as she did, showing her cute white muff. Oh, nice and hairy. Raven watched as she seemed to have surrendered and rushed out the door. He closed his eyes, feeling the tremendous influx of purple energy inside his body since last night, and pushing himself to the second gate was much closer than he could imagine. Only one stage left. His strength and stamina increased the most. At stage 6, they grew by 0.6 points each, while his vitality grew by 0.4. When Lilith's energy entered his body, it didn't move around it but instead began to gather near the small ball of purple stone that pumped out his purple mist. The more he interacted with her, the more significant it grew. The inside of his abdomen was like a strange space, a large round ball with the purple stone in the center, but the rest was void, now slowly being filled with pink mist. This needed to be filled to open the second gate in his memory. Slowly he began to get dressed. Thanks to the erotic body of Lilith, he needed some time to calm the raging orc club between his legs, as he began to wear another of his high-quality suits. I need to buy some new gear, especially for that girl. She seems the type to fall into dog shit. Or a pool of urine. Damn. Buying that room for a month was a little costly, but her smile was worth it. Raven noticed his 2,220 credits were now down to 1,600, and he spent more than he used to get paid for the whole month, for 4 meals, with his vast discount. Looking at his current status, he decided to visit a simple dungeon when taking Lilith today, probably the Wailing Caverns, like his first dungeon. Simple, and it means I can finish easily. Thud. Ugh. Fuck. The flashback of last night caused him to feel pain in the back of his mind. He groaned and began leaning on the black wardrobe. His nose was bleeding slightly as the throbbing pain began to fade. Wanting to see if something was wrong with him, he checked his status page. Oh, Chimera of Black Storm. Oh, Chimera, Manticore/High Orc. Oh, age 28, visually 21. Oh, blood type O.Z1. Oh, level 10. Oh, class Dread Knight. Oh, experience 46/100. Oh, cultivation. The 12 Gates of Bliss, Manticore only. Oh, cultivation realm. Gate 1, Gateway of Awakening. Oh, cultivation stage. Stage 9, Breakthrough locked. Oh, credits. 1,600 attributes, average equals 1, strength. 4.9 agility. 2.4 stamina. 6.4, 0.2, current vitality. 6.9, 0.3, current intellect. 3.2 wisdom. 3.4. Almost immediately, as he grunted, a pretty girl rushed into his room, wearing tight jeans, her top button loose as her purple tattoo seemed to glow vibrantly, throbbing as she rushed to Raven's side filled with worry. Raven. Raven. Are you okay? Oh. What's wrong, Lilith? I don't know. I suddenly felt there might be something wrong with you. There was a thud and... You know we can go to the dungeon tomorrow. I'll make you soup. Okay. Her body now pressed against him, helping to close the last buttons of his black suit jacket, her eyes filled with worry as she hugged him tightly, coiling her tail around his thigh. Raven felt her warmth. The moment she appeared, he felt a sense of recovery. Part of the misty pink energy from her womb entered the small stone that seemed to struggle to create his purple mist. Likely a repercussion of helping Eve the night before, for some reason, Lilith appeared to forget the dream after they ate together, but her mannerisms began to change slightly. Maybe she will mature slowly. He thought, the pain slowing as tiny wisps of purple energy started to flow naturally when she filled him with her powerful pink essence. The moment he felt her pulling away, his hands grasped her, not too tight but held her close to his body, her face looking at him with pink cheeks. Before she could speak, he whispered in her little pointed ears. Please, let me hold you a little longer. Okay. His deep, raspy voice caused goosebumps on her arms as she turned red once again, her face looking down as she hugged him tightly, her nose sniffing various parts of his body with a delighted look. As long as it makes you feel better. Her voice was so soft, sweet and soothing that he almost mistook her for Phyllis or Miriam. Thanks, Lilith. Raven's huge body wrapped around her stopped feeling painful and sluggish, his current vitality and stamina recovered to over 4.5 as the color and strength returned to his body, his hands slipping down as they grasped her tightly. Shall we make a quick breakfast, then head to the dungeon, maybe eat something nice tonight, like pizza, to celebrate you getting a class? Just don't get sick. How about a kiss? Maybe your kiss will help me recover. He expected her to make a cheeky and embarrassed remark, but her tail tightened around his thigh as her body lifted onto her tiptoes, gently pressing her soft lips against his, the faint taste of cherry from her sticky lip gloss. Her tongue snaked between his teeth as she moaned lightly, making Raven's breath catch as he ran his hand up her smooth back, squeezing her as firmly. He could feel the heat coming off her body as his other arm slipped behind her head and pulled her closer, deepening the kiss. Something about her had changed since last night, but at the same time, he also began to change, not holding back his desires anymore. They broke the embrace after several seconds, panting heavily and grinning at each other. She pressed her fingertips into his chin, smiling sweetly. I hope that made you feel better, if not. If not. Her eyes shone with a seductive and alluring light, a wolfish smile on her lips as her sultry voice sounded, you can try kissing the lips between my hips. Lilith rubbed her lower body, the unfastened button showing a soft white fur before she darted out of the room. Her seductive hips, wrapped in the blue jeans swaying as if to entice him even more, were the last thing he saw before she vanished. Raven felt like he had lost to her for the first time, rubbing his head in frustration. Damn! I lost to the slum girl. Chapter 42. Teasing the old man. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The two quickly ate breakfast, and left the apartment with hurried steps, Raven because the bus would be arriving in 3 minutes, Lilith because she was wearing a cute black dress with a white belt and ribbon and thick black tights and boots with thick leather and steel in them, lacing up to her shin just below the knee. Going on a hunt killing all the bad guys. Lilith skipped her feet, thudding as her heavy shoes slammed into the cement. Stop singing, come take my hand. Yeah, you love touching my soft skin, okay. As soon as their hands touched, a rush of purple energy flowed through them. It wasn't nearly enough to push past the second gate yet, but it gave him an idea of how quickly things were moving. I need to see Miriam. Raven thought, tightly grasping her hand to ensure she didn't vanish like Eve last night. They began to dash across the road, pushing past a few people rushing to work like every day. Honestly, Raven didn't care about these people, they could complain or shout, but he could see the bus turning the road beside his stop. He grasped Lilith's thighs and lifted her. This girl is getting so heavy. Does all the weight get to her tits and ass? Shall I put her on a diet? What stupid things are you thinking? She asked, looking at him with sharp eyes. She seemed to notice him looking at her chest and lower body, her tail wrapped around his arm, slapping him with the slightly stiff bell at the tip. The weight of her ass caused him to dip a little before he began to sprint at his max speed, taking small puffs of air with quick-timed breaths, their bodies thundering down the road with his stomping feet almost penetrating the hard concrete pavement. That feels good. Raven thought as the wind blew across his face, the faint scent of Lilith's body removing the nasty stench of the slum, her fruity scent soothing to his nose. Lilith giggled as they passed the crosswalk, crossing the busy street without any cars noticing them until they reached the next intersection, where they both looked ahead for traffic lights changing. The bus was just about to pull up to the stop he needed. That shit-eating old man was taking out his cigarette, probably going to take a short break before leaving, but Raven didn't trust this old man. He would sometimes do this, then instantly leave, smoking as he drove the bus. A black aura began to flow around his body. At the same time, he felt his heart and lungs overworking to increase his speed to the limit. Raven's body was like a flash of black lightning moving several meters with each step, the bus closing in on him. Slowly, they were almost there. With one final burst of speed, he leapt forward and grabbed the handlebar above the door, pulling himself inside, grabbing Lilith by her waist as his legs pushed off the ground, lifting them high enough for her to hold on to the metal bars on either side of the window frame. PSSH. The next moment the doors closed, the old man looking at the pair, Lilith with her body in his arms, her head leaning happily against his chest as she enjoyed the black and purple mist entering her nose, while Raven panted. He used Shadow Strike to catch the bus. His heart felt broken. He almost emptied his willpower and stamina, not on a boss encounter, but to see the damn bus. I hate my life. He thought, scanning his phone twice, as the old man looked smug at first, but then Lilith's body slid, her ass landing inside Raven's hands, but unlike what her grandfather thought, she didn't pull away but seemed comfortable with it. Oh, kidnapping girls now, orc boy. The old man spoke as the pair began to walk towards the usual seat. Pa. Raven slapped her vast ass, Lilith and the old man's eyes widening. The bus seemed crushed to pieces under abnormal pressure for a moment. But Raven thought that was just his mind playing tricks on him. This girl is living with me, she's like a rat who eats all my food, so I made her my little maid. She likes me touching her but like this, Who's your little maid? I think I will get on my hands and knees and do what that elf did. No way. Not even if you beg. Heh. Watching private videos is a big offense. Pa. The old man turned away, his face filled with tears of blood. I'll kill that bastard. Spanking my granddaughter. Spanking her. Living together. My cute granddaughter is going to become an orc's maid. He spoke his native tongue, so Raven didn't understand him. Raven, now sitting on the bus seat, saw the old man struggling, his cigarette almost falling from his lips, veins bulging from his face. With a look of concern, Raven shouted to him. The bus was empty as always anyway. The only other passenger was now sitting against his side, leaning against his chest like a behaved cat. Hey! Old man! You don't look so good, maybe you should retire and find a nice home to live in. Who's old? Old man. What's that strange gibberish you're saying? I was saying the young sure do play very obscene games these days. Ah, old man, you don't know, this girl wakes me up with her naked ass each morning. She's so lewd. The bus suddenly swerved, the loud beeping of another car filling their ears as it quickly corrected itself. Raven held tightly onto the soft Lilith as she nuzzled his chest. Her tough act seemed to only apply to vocal rejection as her body clung to him most of the time. Oi! Don't tell this old fart about me, what if he tries to pay money to sleep with me? Suddenly the bus seemed to stall as the old man began to try starting the engine. It began to roar and spit, his face filled with a thick sweat, veins bulging from his red face. The old man must be bad with perverted conversation. Raven thought to himself. While the old man continued to mutter under his breath in another language. God damn kids. Naked. Every morning. Sleep with you. My granddaughter. Ugh. My heart. This poor old man's heart is broken. The old man is a good guy. I thought you were too. The old man's face looked into the distance, his eyes glazed over as if he was lost in happy times before everything went wrong. When Lilith was just born, he was glad to be a grandfather despite her mother's race, the birth outside of marriage. I am the nicest guy. What kind of nice guy steals a girl's first kiss and uses tongue? I didn't see you complaining then. You even sucked on it, and you were so wet. 10 minutes passed, and they finally arrived at their stop, bickering and chirping together all the trip. A confident poor old man felt his heart hurting as he opened the doors, watching the pair leave once again, his hand wrapped around her hips. At the same time, she hooked around his arm the moment he left the bus, and the doors closed. Guha. Cough. Cough. Their words were finally released. He started coughing blood, looking several years older, hearing what his beloved granddaughter was doing with that boy. He flipped the bus to, not in service, and turned around. Today, he would go and spend the day at the spa, seeing his old buddies from the bureau. Never mind. Kids these days are different. She's a good girl. Good girl. Chapter 43, Bonus, 43. Manticore's First Dungeon, 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Hey, Raven. That portal looks strange. Strange. Yeah, why does it just swirl around all day? Not sure. The pair stepped forward, the same black monolith that Raven first entered, the place of his new life's beginning. He was a little scared of what they might find, the strange murals, the tragic past and the horrific truth he learned, no matter what. Raven continually swore to save Eve when he met her again, stopping Lilith from becoming like her previous self. Raven watched the familiar blue portal swirling with a black line, almost hypnotizing as he went to pull out his axe, only to realize it was destroyed. Fuck. So much happened I forgot to visit a damn blacksmith. What's the matter? You sound like some kind of drug-dealing gangster with that fierce look and big body when you say fuck. And you sound like a street worker. Humph. Shall we enter? Sorry, I forgot my axe, so it might be annoying. We were too excited and forgot weapons. Bang. Suddenly a loud blast filled the area, as a strange black energy crackled from the palm of Lilith's hand, while a moment later, she vanished and appeared on the wall above, a pink mist replacing her body. I have these. Will it help? She said with a teasing look as she smiled. Raven was surprised. How the hell did she cast that strange spell? It was like two black spikes penetrated the wall like crossed blades, causing it to explode, and the technique she used when escaping his harassment in the bathroom was so smooth that he could barely feel the vibration from her footsteps. That's with enhanced senses. This girl. Is she a genius? Theta he couldn't see her current status, due to her not entering the dungeon or visiting the guild. Thankfully, the bracelet for a sub-member or monster was slightly different, and Emily gave him one during their date. It's a good thing I asked her for one. Let's send a message before we enter. Emily. Chapter 44-44. Manticore's first level up. 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh, Lilith Novalia, 1, oh, Obsessive Bride Orc Stalker, oh, Manticore, Luna Variant, oh, age 24, visually 19, oh, blood type M.69 oh, level 1 oh, class. None oh, experience. 0/10 attributes, average equals 1, strength. 1.2 agility. 2.7 stamina. 1.3 vitality. 1.7 intellect. 2.6 wisdom. 2.30 skills. Manticore's heart, passive, level max. Increases control over vitality and stamina regeneration and absorption, the perfect mate for a male manticore. Manticore's body, passive, level max. Increases recovery of mana and willpower and boosts intellect and vitality at each level. Shadow Spike, level 1, assault the enemy's mind with deadly spikes of shadow, penetrating their skull for lethal shadow damage. No cooldown 1 second cast time. Wisdom 0.3 Blossom Step, level max, dart through the air after becoming an ethereal nether blossom, blooming with a beautiful rose cloud, intangible and immune to damage. 3 charges. 10-second cooldown. Instant cast. Wisdom 0.1 Stamina 0.2 When Raven saw her skills, some of which were level max, he felt a little jealous, but seeing her sparkling eyes as she looked at them, her soft pink lips forming a cute smile, he soon forgot that jealousy. At least now I know she will be safe. That dash doesn't cost too much. If she gets tired and needs stamina and vitality, I can let her drain me. Lilith hopped around his body, trying to poke through the blue screen as she looked at Raven with twinkling eyes. Hey, hey. Show me yours. Okay. Mine is pretty good, right? Hee max level. Praise me, praise your little queen. Look at those titles. You like my orc body that much? The girl ignored him, her little dress spinning to reveal her training shorts, the latex wrapped and stretched around her ass, both alluring and erotic, causing Raven to swallow his saliva. Humph. You love my attention, let me see, okay. Raven showed his screen to her for a few moments as she quickly began to pout and kick stones into the dark tunnel, her little tail swaying as she seemed unconvinced. 2. I do love your cute voice. Ha. What's cute? I won't reward you for being weird. Lilith replied, her face a little pink as she started walking towards the right path, the split tunnel. You know how to fight with those skills, right? It's in my head. That sneaky woman taught me many things but always spoke about complicated things. I see. I'm glad she's gone now. If this cute and feisty girl vanished, I don't know if I could accept the other Lilith. For what they did to Eve in the past, I might even kill her. They moved along the dungeon path, Raven remembered his first kill in this tunnel, the patrolling goblin that faced the wall for a long time before turning around. "Hey, Raven." Her soft but husky voice sounded, her hands grasping his right fingers. Raven looked towards her, wondering what was wrong as she suddenly stood on her toes, eyes closed and lips pressed together as they glistened with her cherry lip gloss. She hummed. Not needing any more of a hint, his arms wrapped around her soft body, the silk feel of her dress brushing along his fingers, and he held her tightly, gently kissing the needy little manticore as she started to suck on his lips. The feeling of her drinking his purple energy filled his body, a slight tingle spreading through his body as she licked across his lips and pulled away, her eyes glowing brightly as if entranced. He watch how amazing I am and praise me more. She twisted her body, lifting off the floor with several little hops, tapping her feet on the floor, seeming to imitate something she saw in an anime or something. Whoosh! He merely blinked once. Now Raven looked at the place Lilith stood before. Her body vanished with a soft poof. A flutter of pink mist and flowers fluttered as she suddenly appeared several meters away, her body clinging to the walls, like that space creature that would leave strange eggs in a person's chest, where they burst from them later into little face-grabbing winged rats. A weird alien film. Like a deadly spear lunging with a skilled spearman hand or a scorpion's tail, whiplashing into a predator's chest to deal a fatal blow, her tail swayed as her tip became a sharp spike, over 7 inches long as it penetrated the neck of the goblin from behind, its tip spreading as sharp blades tore through its throat and skull, revealing a sticky gray brain. The sound was a little gross, but Raven saw her lifting it off the ground, sniffing the bloody mass of its brains before snorting and lowering her tail. I'm a little jealous. Her tail is so powerful. I wonder if mine will become stronger when I evolve further. A naturally born manticore is so lucky. Oh. Raven was shocked as she lowered the goblin's body before lifting her sexy leg above its head and slamming down with a vicious and powerful axe kick, crushing its skull and smashing the soft brain into mush. As her tail became like a strange syringe, sucking the brains from the broken skull, slowly, the goblin's body became like a withered husk, like what the weird insect guy did from Serpent Circle Z, almost killing pickles. Stupid goblin tastes like instant ramen. So sticky and greasy. Gained 1 EXP, experience. 47 out of 100. Raven ignored her little comment. For some reason, he didn't find her disgusting and instead felt that the goblin might taste like barbecue flavor noodles, watching with a smile as she kicked away the withered corpse that exploded into dust against the wall. Her face turned to him with a beaming smile, she seemed to shine with radiance, filled with confidence as she flashed forward with her blossom step, suddenly landing in his arms as she began to kiss his lips, sucking on them passionately. Lilith's tongue pushed into his mouth, trying to pull it into her mouth, her glowing eyes watching him with a dominant and predatory look as she sucked on the tip with a sloppy slurping sound. MMPH so good. This is the best meal in the world. Raven. Do I taste good for you too? Do you want to suck my tongue? He suddenly realized not only was she using him to refill her exhausted energy as if by instinct, but also some palate cleanser as she became engrossed in their kiss for several minutes before pulling away, her face and mind seeming to catch up with her instinct as she blushed and pushed away from him, skipping towards the right tunnel. It's not like I wanted to kiss you. I feel my strength returning when I kiss you, okay? Stupid orc. Getting an erection. Pressing it again me. Humph. Raven smiled bitterly as she watched her skipping to the next room, her body fluttering with pink energy as if overflowing, her tail swayed gently, the tip forming a little heart, seeming to betray her coy response. Wait, Lilith. He whispered, grasping her shoulder tightly and pulling her back before they entered the room. It's just like last time, but now the torches are lit, and the chest is visible without dark vision. It differed from his attempt as he began to survey the room with those 2 powerful monsters. There were 6 goblins patrolling, the ones that were merely corpses on his try. Did those 2 monsters kill them last time? Seems realistic. MMH. Can we fight? I am strong. And you will protect me when I make mistakes. Tell me, how much experience did you get from killing that goblin? Raven watched with a warm smile as he saw her playing with the blue screen. For some reason, only a member of the bureau and the person could see experience gained. He received 1 EXP point for that goblin, so he wondered if the killer got any bonus experience. Or maybe if he got penalized for doing nothing and being level 10. I got 0 experience. It says I should have gotten 2, but it was divided. And I lack a class. She began to pout as she skipped around, looking back at him over her shoulder, lifting her foot slightly off the ground. You stole my hard work. Stupid orc, kiss my feet, and I'll forgive you. He looked at the cheeky manticore as she smiled at him. Her raspy voice was lovely when she acted a little cute or flirtatious. As he stepped forward, Lilith backed off against the rigid craggy walls with sharp rocks, her eyes glowing like torches as she went to lift her leg. Raven moved forward quickly, suddenly taking her lips, enjoying the reaction of her eyes widening. He could not do this in a hard dungeon, but he was confident merely using his body, he could kill more than 20 of those goblins. Thus he enjoyed the taste of his manticore partner, her soft pink tongue pulled into his mouth as she gently struggled before wrapping around him like an octopus, his mouth sucking on her tongue as he swallowed her warm spit and sweet drool, her breath lemon-scented after eating some hard candies on the trip here. MMPH ha. Stop. Okay. Don't be so. NNNNPH. I lose. I won't be cheeky. I lose. Lilith kissed his neck back, her little fangs piercing his flesh with 2 little trickles of blood in revenge as she darted forward, shaking her tail and ass at him, entering the room with 4 goblin warriors and 2 archers. Her eyes were like torches before her body faded into the shadows, with a faint pink mist left in her place. Since she's impatient, let's kill those archers to make her shine. 1. Nova, taken from the Latin word for new, often associated with new beginnings or a fresh start. 2. I didn't show it as it was shown not long ago and nothing has changed since, don't want to increase the cost of chaps. Chapter 45, Bonus, 45. Manticore's first level up. 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Raven followed her quickly. As her body used the broken stone pillars, she suddenly became like a real predator, his eyes widened as she leapt from the stone posts without sound, like a beast stalking her prey. So that's how a real manticore moves. I feel like a complete fake, Lilith's tail swayed like a deadly beast watching its prey. His body began shimmering with a black mist, his eyes glowing a dark blue as he darted forward. 2 of the 4 goblin warriors were walking past Lilith's pillar, her body masked by the darkness above the vague torchlight. They've noticed her. The moment her tail pierced through the air, its thick spike punctured through the ear of the closest goblin warrior, lifting his powerless body into the air as thick black blood oozed from its burst ears before the disgusting sucking sounded. The body became a husk in seconds, as 2 goblin archers pulled their arrows, aiming at the distracted Lilith now enamored with the thrill of the kill. Raven's body shot forward, his feet like small boulders as they smashed down, the sound causing all goblins to turn his way, even the archers. As his mouth opened with a blood-curdling shout, he activated, Dread Aura, Lilith, watch your fucking back. The goblins were slowed dramatically. The 2 arrows now floated through the air, and Lilith's body reacted like one of those Pokémon masters ordering their little beasts to kill each other like savages. Her tail swayed around her head like a lasso, sending the withered goblin corpse flying into the arrows as they pierced their former kin. Thanks to his shout, her body vanished in a flutter of pink roses, now across the room and atop the broken statue, out of their range as she pushed both hands towards 2 of the 3 warriors now charging her. Grurak. Rururu. Grilkpa. They shouted, their rusty weapons pointing at her as she held out her open palms, a dark pink aura enveloping her body, slowly turning to black as it formed a cyclone with her as the eye. Die for me, Okay. Clench. Her hands clutched together the moment Raven's body smashed into the archers, their second arrows snapping under his 95 kg of weight. Because of his daily training and changes, he grew slightly not only in height but his muscles were more powerful and bulky as he scooshed them to the ground, lifting his fists covered in a shadowy aura. Splatter. Theta M4 shadowy spikes penetrated two goblin warriors, their skulls burst open as watermelons slammed on the ground, grey matter spraying everywhere as their bodies trembled before falling to the ground without power. Lilith hopped down, and the third goblin's spear thrust towards her neck with the goblin's fierce attack. The whistle of rusted copper tearing through the air sounded in her ears as she grabbed onto the tip with her tail, yanking it towards her before smashing the goblin's face with a brutal knee. Its nose cracked, crushed into its skull as black blood and bones erupted from the wound. The howl of goblins from the other room caused her face to fill with a brilliant smile as she hovered her black spike over the goblin, its body pinned down by her slightly hooved feet, her teeth growing sharp as her drool dripped from her mouth. She felt her lower body tighten each time the sound of Raven's fist smashing the goblins that tried to hurt her echoed in the dark chamber, his fierce blows with a resounding boom as their flesh, skull and organs splattered everywhere. "Little goblin, can you hear that? My wonderful and perfect mate is beating your filthy kinsman to death. Fufu, he is so passionate to defend me." Lilith's eyes glowed a dark purple, she seemed more malevolent and pure at this moment, her ears twitching as Raven scolded the goblins for trying to shoot her. "Ah! You just know how to make a manticore wet, stupid orc." Grrkrkrk. The cries of the goblin below her, its mouth bubbling with black blood, unable to breathe properly as she crushed its entire face with her knee. Her smile was beautiful and terrifying as she looked at the goblin like a piece of meat, not a living creature. "See how you enjoy being eaten alive." Squelch. Her sharp tail penetrated its damaged nose, the blood squirting as she thrust through the meat before its body began to tremble and desperately try to move and reach out. Still, her feet would stomp its arms, the powerful hooves crushing its bones into dust, as the manticore enjoyed her meal. Meanwhile, Raven's body was covered in blood, his face looking like a devil as he no longer resisted his feeling and desire as a manticore. They tried to hurt his female. Thus he destroyed them and smashed them into pulp, although if he had a weapon, it might have been much more elegant and refined. He looked at his swelled upper body, the slightly darker brown skin when he entered his manticore form was shimmering as his suit was somewhat torn. "I need to get a suit that can change shape. Or maybe one of those fantasy-like tunics." He stood slowly, after taking the black chest from the pedestal. Raven could swear it was smaller in the past but forgot his own significant changes. Now standing nearly 7 foot tall, his hands easily grasping the chest that would need 2 people usually, his large hooves denting the crumbling rock and mud, walking towards Lilith, who looked at him with a lustful and blissful look. "Raven, I need you," she uttered with a sultry voice, her body flashing with pink blossoms, before she sat on the black chest, the weight nothing to Raven in this form, as she wrapped her arms around his neck, kissing him passionately, her long tongue sliding between his teeth, tasting him as he kissed back fiercely. His hands were occupied as the black chest pushed against her ass, lifting her body to make the kiss more intense, her breasts pressing firmly against his muscular chest. The moment their lips touched, her gentle pink aura began to flood inside his body, the slight ache in his brain from using Shadow Strike fading. In contrast, her body was filled with his thick purple essence, restoring her almost completely. This time Raven noticed that she had a similar small ball inside her lower body. His eyes closed as he tried to direct his energy inside the small ball, penetrating her muscles and flesh. Slowly the purple point made its way inside her. He could feel a slight strain on his body, with his muscles slightly spasming, her tongue still wrapped around his as she sucked on him relentlessly, moaning into his mouth. It seemed to get more intense as he pushed his energy deeper, finally reaching that small ball inside her. Like a tiny beam, he enveloped it with his oar, slowly piercing what seemed to be a thin veil protecting it. "Ahin, what? What is this?" Lilith's body suddenly broke the kiss, her head snapping back as a sensual moan left her lips, as she began to gasp. A loud wet sound as if water dropped from a bucket sounded as her lower body began to convulse, the black chest now soaked in a strangely sweet and sour-smelling liquid, that was sticky and viscous. Raven's mind was clouded as he watched the fluid pouring from her lower body in giant spurts, as the purple aura he sent into her body was gone without a trace, sucked into the small bean that seemed to have grown slightly, no longer a tiny bean, maybe half a centimeter bigger. It took Lilith around 5 minutes to recover, her eyes bright pink and glowing with a strange light as she watched him with seductive eyes. Was that the essence of dual cultivation, without the sex? Did she climax from my energy entering her core? Erotic. Do all monster girls that absorb essence have a lewd core like this? He felt her hands gripping him tight as she started to shower him with kisses before leaning back, letting out a long sigh as her eyes slowly returned to their usual color. She kissed him again with a wet and sticky kiss, rubbing her nose against his. Moi, such a delicious kiss. Thank you, darling. She joked, her red tongue sliding along his lips, cleaning all the excess drool. The pair stared into each other's eyes. There was a sense of attachment between them. It was filled with lust, passion and affection. But Raven knew he was playing with fire, but this couldn't be helped. Raven no longer wanted Lilith to find someone who could help her live a happy life. It had to be him, or he would kill them. It seemed it wasn't just the female manticore that became jealous and obsessive with partners. Her soft body hopped off the chest, touching the ground with a soft pap. Her feet now have cute brown toes and nails painted red. Lilith twisted her body like a ballerina and placed both hands on either side of the box. Can I open it? Darling. It also seemed the changes that happened during their transformation and emotional height would remain even after her own actions and temperament becoming more obedient and less cheeky each time they kissed. Who is your darling, leaving your slimy drool all over my face? But he didn't want to rush things, slowly, step by step. He would accept all of the women who wanted to be with him. Humph. I was being nice, damn arrow.org. Iraq. Chapter 46-46. Manticore's first level, free, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Raven looked at the beautiful woman standing before him, her hands sliding across the chest. He couldn't open this chest even if he wanted to, it was locked, and her name was engraved on the latch. Click. Her fingers opened it with a flick, her violet eyes looking into the box as she slammed the lid open, the black box slamming against his muscular chest. Why is it empty? Lilith complained with a pout before the chest began to rumble. Her violet ring also began glowing with a strange light. The pink aura burst from the trunk, swirling in the air like a myriad of pink blossoms. Why is it blossoming? She isn't a dryad. Raven complained as the countless flowers began to envelop Lilith's body. Her eyes, face, mouth, body, everything was completely covered as the petals slowly darkened until they were a dark purple as if corrupted. For a moment, even her eyes were dark rather than light purple. Her flesh instantly became more lustrous, with a slight radiance. Her scent was like a dark red wine before for Raven, now with a floral and fruity scent almost addictive, like a deadly fruit hiding in the center of a carnivorous plant. Feel good? He asked with a broad smile, his large white teeth showing. Your kiss felt better. Lilith responded as the last of the dark petals began to meld, with her abdomen all sinking inside her, marking her dress fluttering from the blossom's wind. Do you need another one? Not yet, I'm full. Raven checked to make sure there was no more stuff inside the chest before tossing it aside. His head turned around, but sadly, this time, there was no mural or special event. Although she might have gotten an excellent class, it wasn't something like his cultivation technique. Ready, a little bit more. Lots of weird words. She lifted her arm, showing him her little bracelet as the details of her changes were shown, just like he thought before. She specialized as some kind of agile spellcaster, most deadly in the mid to close range with combo attacks. Her stats weren't much higher either, but she gained mana regeneration, making her spells easier to cast and faster. Also, she got a few new skills. Oh, Lilith Novalia, oh, Obsessive Bride, Orc Stalker. Oh, Manticore, Luna Variant, oh, age 24, visually 19, oh, blood type M.69, oh, level 10, class. Blossom Reaper, oh, experience. 0/10 attributes, average equals 1, strength. 1.6 agility. 3.3 stamina. 1.5 vitality. 1.7 intellect. 2.9 wisdom. 2.90 skills Manticore's heart, passive, max. Increases control over vitality and stamina regeneration and absorption, the perfect mate for a male Manticore. Manticore's body, passive, max. Increases recovery of mana and willpower and boosts intellect and vitality at each level. Shadow Spike, level 1, assault the enemy's mind with deadly spikes of shadow, penetrating their skull for lethal shadow damage. No cooldown 1 second cast time Wisdom 0.3 Blossom Step, max, dart through the air after becoming an ethereal nether blossom, blooming with a beautiful rose cloud, intangible and immune to damage. 3 charges. 10-second cooldown instant cast Wisdom 0.1 Stamina 0.2 Mana Eater, passive, level 1, suck away the opponent's mana on death and piercing attacks, converting it to strength, stamina and mana. Raven looked at her new class and skill, noticing there was only one, but it also meant she wouldn't need to kiss him every few minutes during combat, and her style of darting around could be maintained if she used her tail and dagger-type weapons in the future. A Blossom Reaper, huh? Sounds cute and deadly. Hee it's good. Are you jealous? Foo. Now let's go kill the monsters. Wait. Amen. He looked at the closed door, remembering there wasn't enough in that room to help her level. He didn't want to become a poacher, having already told Lilith to avoid doing the same as him as he nearly died. Instead, he gently stroked her soft white hair. Her face is up to his chin due to his growth in this chimera form. Lilith was also in her strange form but wasn't as large and seemed to become more flexible and agile with his. He watched with slight jealousy, hoping the second gate would give him a powerful tail, like a battering ram or mace. Let's wait for the goblins to respawn. I'll stand here where the archers will spawn, you go back on the pillars. They normally take 40.50 minutes. But you said it would be bad. Only if we do it more than 4 times. Let's do it twice, then you will level, and we can clear the next room several times to get you to level 3 before we leave. 40 minutes quickly passed as 2 goblins began to materialize with bows in front of Raven, his hulking body and sharp claws lifted above their heads. At the same time, Lilith's tail and hands lashed out towards 3 of the 4 goblin warriors, cutting them down within seconds. The 4th warrior was too slow to dodge the attack, slashed by her tail and right hand. With a gurgling noise, its life drained from it, leaving behind a pool of blood that quickly evaporated as her tail, like a straw, began to drink the goblins like a milkshake. Burp. Lilith felt so full and comfortable that she let out a resounding burp, her cute face turning red as she saw Raven giving her a thumbs up, his sharp claws filled with black blood. Killed goblins x6. Gained 12 EXP, gained 120 credits. They repeated this another time as suddenly the body of Lilith began to convulse. Her body was filled with pink veins, unlike Raven's black and purple ones. She began to shake as he darted through the air, almost destroying several of the pillars, grabbing her falling body. Her lips were foaming as her tail slammed wildly around, smashing into Raven's thigh before its sharp tip pierced his flesh before sucking on his life essence rapidly. Fuck. This girl. Engivich thirst. Help. Raven. His arms tightened around her waist, holding her tightly as his essence poured into her body, filling her with what seemed to be pure vitality. He held on tight as his consciousness faded, biting his lip until a thick iron taste filled his mouth. Raven pulled her up, taking her into his arms, as her body transformed as he did on the first level up, she also began to experience the pleasure of leveling up as her lower body became sticky, squirting a thick, feminine-scented fluid across his arms. Raven. I can taste you. It's so delicious. I feel so much pain. It hurts. But I feel so good. My body is tingling. Kiss me. Make the pain stop. The feeling made him dizzy, causing him to lose balance. Sending both of them crashing onto the floor, the impact knocking his breath from his lungs. As the sticky fluids in her stage floral scent oozed from her body, mixing to create a strange and enticing aroma. Lilith lay beneath him and wrapped his arms around his neck, while Raven half-entrance began kissing her deeply as he pressed himself against her hot and wet body, his cock beginning to harden as she moaned deep in her throat, tasting his essence. His hands slid down her smooth skin and between her legs, finding her swollen entrance, his large fingers quickly slipping inside as she gasped into his mouth. He could feel a thick sensation of liquid color's pink energy rushing from her depths as it entered his body crazily, while her slippery depths became like a vortex, sucking both his purple mist and fingers deeper inside her. They began to entangle their bodies, wrapping her legs around his waist. While he wrapped his arms and legs around her like two octopi dancing on the ground, kissing each other passionately. Chapter 47, Bonus, 47. Second Gate, R18, you are listening at novelfull.audio. NNNNNM that it. Raven. Deeper. The pain is fading, MNNNPH. Their lips separated, her tongue lashing his cheek as his hips pushed forward, forcing his fingers further along her slick tunnel. The sound of her bestial moans and squelching resounded through the room as her tail began to slide along his pants, the tip slipping from his thigh as if it found a new way to drain essence. Lilith. Are you alright? Raven, I feel so hot. My body is so hot. Raven looked down as the beautiful woman in his arms, her dark brown skin now filled with a pink flush, her body heating up as he felt the insides of her lower body becoming like an oven. Her entire body began to grow scales from the waist down, soft and pink, beautiful and pristine. They were squishy to the touch as some formed around her slit, as his fingers teased them, the cute manticore arching her back as she thrust her hips against his fingers. Lilith. It's not just you that's hot. What's going on? He knew this wasn't a normal situation, that her first time leveling was like an evolution. Her body was craving energy, as her tail began to sway seductively, her weak hands fumbling as she unzipped his pants, the massive almond meat club flopping out, as he looked at the strange tip that killed so many goblins, becoming an enormous bell-shaped cone, its length almost the same as his member, as sticky honey began to ooze from the tip, as the insides looked like a woman's snatch. Raven, I can feel your cock. It's going into my tail, it feels so good. MMH, such a thick essence more. It was a strange sensation that made him moan deep in his throat when he felt it wrap around his shaft immediately before he began thrusting inside her tail's unknown female parts. It was something lewd he read about manticore and succubi. They could make their tail take the form of the most perfect pussy for each cock, as her slippery folds began to wrap around him as her body clung to his as if he was fucking her. She gasped and grunted, kissing his chest and neck, as she held onto his cheeks. With both hands. You're fucking my tail like a pussy. So bad. My poor tail is going to get filled with your sperm. Shush, be a good girl and open your mouth. He began to kiss her passionately, sucking on her tongue as the wet spluttering of her tail being violated filled the entire area. Raven felt a fantastic sensation as her soft inside squished and churned around his meat rod. He could feel something warm and wet at his base. He groaned as he thrust forward deeper into her tail pussy with long strokes while rubbing against what felt like an incredibly tight vice gripping him tightly from all sides. She wrapped around him so tightly that he thought they were melting together like one organism. He could feel her sucking on him, the vitality and life draining rapidly from him, as his muscles were throbbing, his heart racing. The space of his stomach would fill with pink essence each time his cock penetrated deeper into her tail, the soft walls clinging to his glands, sucking on him viciously, as the smooth tip of his cock kissed the furthest depths of her tail's velvety insides, causing Lilith's ass to thrust against his hips each time he pressed against it. "You're so tight, Lilith. Ugh. I'm going to get rough, suck on my tongue." He bit down on hers until she was moaning in delight deep in his throat as she massaged the base of his club with her sensitive tips. Lust raced through him, making him groan deeply into Lilith's mouth before he broke off with a loud sucking noise of air escaping between their lips. "Raven, Raven, Raven, don't stop, it's coming." Raven pulled back slightly, only for Lilith to suck on him again deeply until she continued moaning deep in their kiss again in pleasure, and knowing she was close made him push deeper into her insides until finally he felt something hard and smooth rasp against his shaft that was becoming wetter by the second. All her honey was forming from this place, and his energy was sucked through this tiny but fleshy hole. His cock twitched within its embrace before he finally felt something stretch wide around him. He could feel every inch of her incredibly tight tail pussy trying to press itself against him until, with one mighty thrust from within, he slammed into what seemed to be a space until he bottomed out in Lilith's insides. She let out a bubbling squeal of ecstasy deep in their mouths before coming all over him. He felt what felt like thousands of warm droplets pour down onto him. His eyes widened in shock as suddenly he felt the second gate opening, the thick burst of pink mist flooding into his body as her body started to convulse, her eyes rolling back as she began to call his name in a strange kind of trance. The pink veins writhing under her skin began to throb. "Raven, Raven, 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 Raven. I'm about to come." He saw purple mist begin to emerge from beneath him while he was buried deep inside Lilith's tail pussy. She wrapped around him with such force that he could feel it each time he moved inside of it until suddenly a burst of purple energy exploded out from below him and engulfed both of them in purple energy that burst out from between their bodies. He could feel every inch of flesh inside Lilith's warm pussy as his cock began to swell up until it exploded into a heavy load of sperm, filled with thousands of tiny spheres which were sucked like a vortex inside of Lilith's body through her tail's bottom. "It's okay. Come all you like, my cute little manticore. Drink all my warm seed and become stronger." The pair, moaning and panting, began to stare into each other's eyes, a couple of neon blue and dark purple eyes filled with affection, desire and lust, watching each other's faces as they reached climax after climax with each other's bodies, her breasts crushed against his chest. His thick, sticky sperm began to bubble and ooze from her tail, which started to suck on him like a blowjob. The moment his seed began to spill out into her, its soft walls all pulling towards the depths as the thick, slimy cum was guzzled down into her body, the thick purple mist now filling every inch of her body. At the same time, Raven lost the ability to focus, his members spewing more and more semen as he fell onto the girl's body, almost crushing her, with both legs wrapped around his thick hips. Don't stop. Please keep filling me with your seed. Heh. I wouldn't stop even if you begged me. Keep it tight, or I'll use your other hole. Damn, it's so sticky and warm. Better than any toy. Lilith's breasts muffled his voice. They were still hugging him tightly despite being devoured by the intense movement of their bodies. His head rested on top of hers while their tongues slowly met in a slow kiss before they broke off and stared deep into each other's eyes once more. They both felt something bubbling up within them that was beyond words. His eyes flickered between hers before they pulled apart once more and looked deep into each other's eyes with lustful desire and adoration. She took another deep breath before driving her nails into his chest. Once more came another loud gasp before they kissed deeply again. She breathed deeply into his mouth before breaking off. She could feel something clench inside herself and knew she would be changing again soon. "It's coming, Raven. Please don't hate me when I've matured." "I won't hate you for anything," he whispered back before kissing her deeply, feeling a strange need building up in himself. Something was profound inside his body. A vast black gate began to shudder, its chains and seals crumbling as pink energy poured into the desolate gate. He could feel an incredible urge to change at this very moment. The second gate was opening. Chapter 48. Trial of the Heart. 1, you are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Raven awoke to find himself in a sea of darkness, the distant gate of awakening crumbling into black rubble, its purple energy faded entirely as the final vapors of its power poured into his ethereal body before it burned away in a burst of blackness that engulfed him and sent him spinning across the void. He could feel something happening inside of himself but couldn't tell what it was. There was nothing but silence and darkness ahead of him for what seemed like an eternity before something happened within his. A colossal black gate stood before him, 9 empty bars with one still gradually filling with a thick pink liquid, no longer a mist, but a soft creamy fluid like a strawberry milkshake. Why is it still increasing? He thought for a moment before closing his eyes, trying to see the outside world, only to feel a warm, slippery sensation enveloping his lower body as another load of hot cream shot into the flooded pink tip of Lilith, now stained white, with gooey, white slime oozing out. Before he could control his body, he was snapped back into reality, noticing that his hands were pulling on her breasts and his sharp fangs biting into her neck as she let out sensual moans with her ass in the air, no longer the flirty but shy slum girl but a manticore woman, seducing her mate. This gate, is it the second? What was it again? The gate of the heart. Does it mean my physical heart? Or, yo, Alice, did you miss mommy's training so bad? No, it can't be. This husky but feminine voice. Raven felt a screaming from his soul. Like a young boy, his black shadow began to sprint towards the light, his body different from Lilith. Instead of forming blossoms, he was like a whirlwind, his body the storm itself as lightning crackled at his feet, taking more than a dozen steps in the blink of an eye, ignoring the pain in his muscles and body, the rapid beating of his heart. It's Mom. Mom's calling me. Raven's voice sounded light and childish as his view seemed to shrink, the world of darkness suddenly becoming a strange garden, countless training dummies and wooden weapons on the dirt, while a beautiful woman with dark brown skin, her body filled with perfect muscles that seemed to throb and tense naturally with her each movement, before she turned around. My cute little Alice, for the first time, you rushed to practice. Come here, let mommy give you a hug and kiss. Foo-foo, see darling, he loves me so much. TSK, don't be kissing my cute wife. Little bastard, he'd still suck on your tits if you made milk. The bitter black-haired male is sitting in the corner with a handsome face looking into his newspaper. Don't call my cute Alice a little bastard. Look at how pretty his face is. I bet we'll have so many daughters to take care of in the future. Foo-foo. Raven's small body leapt into her arms. He felt strange, like the feelings inside his heart were dragged out, tears and snot were running down his face, while his mother's muscular but soft arms grasped him tightly. Che darling, didn't you drink enough of my milk too? Even though it was for my cute Alice. The sound of his father looking from the top of his newspaper entered Raven's eyes. Seeing this scene once again now, he understood it was a little awkward, but his father's blushing face, despite constantly arguing over his mother, Raven loved his father just as much. Seeing him alive and well, the feelings began to pour out. Thank you, Mom, for being so kind to me. Raven grabbed Morgana's shoulders as another burst of tears streamed from his eyes while he hugged her tight. She pulled back just enough so her lips could touch his forehead gently. Hush. Hush. Baby, why do you cry so much? Mommy isn't going anyway. Right. She said with a warm smile as her eyes fixed on him. He could feel something profound within that caused him to feel at ease before her gentle smile became crooked as she put her palm over his face. Don't think I'll let you out of training because you are crying. Alice, today you will learn how to use my axe. I will teach you the best skill when surrounded. His mother's confident voice sounded as she laughed out loud. Oi oi. Don't teach him to be a muscle head. My cute Alice will be a stealthy and smart fighter. Raven's father shouted, standing up, his height, only 5 feet 7 inches tall compared to his mother, who was 6 feet 4 inches, was almost comical. Fine then, since you insist. You can have your way for today. Morgana teased as she stood up and laughed while holding Raven by one arm. His mother stretched out with all her might, grasping a mighty black axe, different from the training axe he used before. It was over 2 meters tall and thicker than his arms. Listen here, Alistair, the best thing to do when surrounded. Best thing. Surrounded. His young voice sounded no longer crying but sniffling. Is spin like a whirlwind. His distant father began to dash towards him, his legs like mist, and his mother was like a storm, her muscles tightening as she twisted her body twice before rapidly spinning like a spinning top. The image became blurry, his body spinning as he saw the funny picture of his father's tiny daggers deflecting her rapid attack, his eyes desperately trying to save the cute half-orc with cute almond skin, but he suddenly noticed. Raven wasn't crying, he wasn't scared. There was a wild glint in his young eyes, and he was squealing and howling in delight. Ah, so cute. Just like his fucking mother. Ah ha 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 ha. Raven's father laughed out loud, his face looked proud, those eyes locking with Raven, who was trapped inside his body. Suddenly the world stopped. Son, are you well? A hoarse but beautiful voice. The memories of his father were something Raven loved and idolized, his deep, magnetic voice based on his father's as a child. Is it hard since we left you? Did you marry that cute elf girl? His father's questions were about things that happened after they died. Was this some test? Raven felt his heart gouged out. Was this the meaning of the gateway of the heart? Raven's eyes tried to look away, his mind and spirit didn't want to accept the death of his parents the most. Those images were not a mourning shrine like Lilith and Phyllis thought. To Raven, it was never to forget their faces should they come back. One day entering the door as if nothing happened, it was like someone could see through him ultimately, their eyes tearing away all his defenses. Don't look away. I'm sorry it's not your mother. His father's voice was lower, a little lonely as he spoke those words. As if he, too, wished she was here, despite being a phantom of his heart, Raven began to feel the presence of his father fading as if he would vanish any moment. Dad! Dad, don't leave again. Raven's voice echoed through the darkness, with his voice a massive burst of power and wind, filled with lightning as the entire world began to reform. Instantly after, he forced himself to shout, watching the figure of his father leave. Even if he knew it was an illusion, he couldn't do it. Forget the 12 gates of bliss, forget becoming an S-class adventurer if he couldn't say goodbye to his father. He didn't want this power. Now, they both stood opposite each other, the father of his memories, with short black hair, a handsome face, sharp blue eyes and his assassin-type outfit, the most iconic look Raven remembered him by. At the same time, Raven wore his business suit, with his bulking muscles and mother's axe in his right hand. His father was too realistic, his chest moved as he took in oxygen, the sound of his powerful heartbeat in Raven's ears, the sound of the wood below them creaking if he moved. Haha. You look like a male version of your mother. But what? You've got my eyes and style, ha 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 ha. Don't joke around. What are you? Why are you in my father's figure? Raven was lost between anger at the fact something, or someone was taking his father's figure, speaking like him, acting like him. Chapter 49-49. Trial of the Heart, 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. He felt delighted his father was right there. His breath, posture, and even the annoying narcissism were present. This wasn't an illusion. It wasn't imaginary. It wasn't even some sort of game. It was goddamn real to him. Ah. Well, honestly, I don't know, am I your dad? The ghost of your dad. Maybe the memory's in your heart, but there's only one constant thing. Oh, what is that? His father looked at him intently before giving a warm smile. You grew into a fine man, Alistair. Sorry I couldn't be there for you. His words were so strange, his chest felt tight. Raven choked on his words, trying to reply while tears ran down his face again. He knew something wasn't right here, this wasn't supposed to happen this way. If it were an illusion or hallucination meant to torture him for eternity. I never want to wake up. Dad. Don't blame your mother, she wanted to save that girl no matter what. Dad. Make sure you don't make that Phyllis girl cry, she's infertile. Your mother worried about telling you. Phyllis is infertile. Raven let out a loud voice. Was this just an illusion? He never heard anything like this before. How could it be a dream if it was something he didn't know or experience? Your mother made her promise never to tell you. For some reason, your mom liked that girl. Maybe it's because her grandmother used to be her drinking partner. Oh. But never call your mother old, okay? She will beat you up, even if it's the cute Alice. The shadow within Raven had melted away like ice melting in fire flame. The warmth within him instantly became ice cold as this new revelation hit him like lightning. Raven. This is too much information. How can I trust the illusion of these very gates? What if you are lying? Am I supposed to go up to her and ask this shit? Dad. Heh. Alistair, you never change, despite doubting and being so smart. Why do you never notice that you decided right from the start? You don't care if I'm a ghost, spirit, memory, illusion or some trapped soul from the dungeon. If you truly doubted me so far, why are you crying and calling me dad just like you did back then? Why is he always like this? Did you forget who knew you learned to wash the laundry to hide you pissing the bed? The two men moved closer as his father smiled wryly, mocking Raven. He looked at the tiny man, his idol growing up. There was a reason the gate chose his father, not his mother. Raven knew his mother was extraordinary, like a pillow that absorbed all his worries and fears. But Raven's father was different. Suddenly his feelings began to pour from his chest like a gate was torn open, Raven's hands turning the small handle as he began to scream his heartfelt feelings towards his father. He was my pillar, you were always there when I needed you and failed. His words were spoken twice, once as the younger Raven and the other his adult voice. The path I sought to follow. Your back was supposed to guide me forward. My idol. I still idolize you, each day, I play your voice singing the pianist's lament. To never forget how you sound. The image of a perfect man. I believed you were the strongest. That if anyone could do it, you could. He was my dad. I miss you so much, Dad, why did you suddenly leave me alone? For every word and thought Raven felt and shouted, his body became hotter as if filled with a raging flame, his body felt more powerful, the beating of his heart thudding so loud that it echoed throughout the room, but with each moment, his father's image became faint, slowly fading as if he was going to vanish. He felt betrayed by this power as he babbled, even more so than before. It felt too real. It wasn't an illusion or some form of deception. It was fucking real. It felt too real. Dad, don't leave. We can still talk. Raven howled, the man's reflection showing a bitter smile as he stepped forward, the steps so light they were almost silent. Idiot. If you want to speak, I'll always listen. Why are you so emotional? Just like your mother. Haha. Please. Don't make light of me, I have so many questions. So many things I want your guidance and help with. Am I doing a good job? Is it okay for me to continue like this? Can I keep loving several women? Will you forgive me if I move on with my life? He didn't feel safe no matter how much he begged, he only wanted to hear what he wanted to hear. He had no fucking clue what happened after they died. He couldn't even listen to their voices anymore. Fool. Of course, you're doing fine. You're my son. Two powerful arms wrapped around his back, the small man so influential, his aura covering Raven's huge body so quickly, as he pulled him into a tight embrace that drove all other thoughts from him. Raven suddenly felt warm despite being surrounded by frosty air, it felt pure and purer than any ecstasy. He felt safe. As if all worries were washed away by two powerful arms holding him close like a child again. Raven. That's your name now. You love me and your mother too much. Don't you realize we want you to be happy? Make light of you. Such a silly boy, all grown up, and you don't even realize it. Alistair. You are my pride, the one thing I can hold my hand to my chest and swear. Ah, this boy is the best thing that happened in my life. Continue how you wish if you want a harem of 1,000 beautiful women. Make them fall, Dad's got your back. If they love you, why not accept them? I could only love your mother, but you're different, right? Phyllis, you still love her and want to be with her despite everything, then take her back. Emily. Well, never expected she would become your lover. Try not to make her upset and get stabbed. Haha. Lilith and Miriam. Why not love them? Who cares about their past, their race, or bloodline? His father's hands wrapped around his cheeks as he slammed his head against him. If you fall, I'll help you stand, if you fail, I'll clean up your mess, if you cry, I'll wipe your tears. If you miss me. His finger pointed to Raven's heart, a wry smile. I'm always here. Idiot. Dad, this is why Mom always calls you stupid. Why are you so corny, like in those dumb movies? Ha 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 ha. Dad. I'm going to do it. I'll make any woman that loves me happy. I swear to you. Our oath as father and son. So please keep your eyes on me, wherever you are. One day, I'll come to find you and tell you everything in person. As Raven felt tears pour from his eyes again and again while still being held by his father's arms tightly against him, he could only nod along while watching the figure of his father fade away until nothing remained but an empty room where he stood alone with no recollection of what had transpired in this. Clack. The first bar of the second gate finally cracked, with only 9 remaining. While Raven's body knelt in the darkness, his hair covering his face. Raven's body began to leave the unique black world, returning to reality slowly. In the dark shadows of the second gate, his father stood watching as he left. Morgana. Why did you leave the embarrassing bits to me? Fufu darling, did you see our little Alice? He's grown so much. Do you think he will be able to? He already knows, darling. That's why he made that oath. Because he realized, we are still inside the dungeon. To think we're already grandparents, though. Eh. His father's voice echoed in the silent void as their bodies became ethereal, like when a monster was about to respawn, wrapped in shadows that danced around them as they vanished without a trace. You're just as slow as Alice. How could you not notice that girl was pregnant just seeing his memories? Chapter 50, Bonus, 50. My Own Tale. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Theta M. Raven's body felt strange, there was a comfortable exhaustion in his body as his eyes opened, a blurry vision at first as he rubbed them with tired arms. Men, Raven. Lilith groaned as her body shifted, a slight sticky pop echoed as her tail slipped off his member, his thick white cream oozing from the opening. Ugh. It feels strange. The moment the cold dungeon air began to blow onto his free member, Raven's body shook. Feeling comfortable as a sudden euphoria filled his body, he couldn't help but smile as his sticky member slapped against her cheek, splashing her face, Lilith's eyes flickering open, while her nose began sniffing intently. It smells like Raven. So tasty. Hee hee. She moved closer towards him and slowly raised her upper body away from him slightly, her long tail suddenly brought the oozing tip to her mouth, and it slowly poured the thick goo into her mouth as she started to lick it clean like a cat. Her mouth opened wide as she licked at her lips vigorously while snoring softly. Raven watched Lilith lick at herself as she slid further away from him on the ground, her legs spread wide as she gave him a seductive smile, her throat swallowing his seed was erotic. He could only watch her lick for several minutes before she finally looked up at him with glowing eyes, her hair dancing around her neck as she sighed happily, her tail returning to its standard form. She crawled closer towards him until she was lying against him with her arms around his neck and chest. "Are you finally awake, little princess?" "Who is little? My boobs are so big. Look, they are filled with your bite marks," Lilith complained as she rubbed against him and looked down at him while rubbing her breasts. "Do you like my breasts?" She smiled up at him smugly with a cute look. Raven felt calmer than before, able to control himself as she rubbed her soft body against his. "We have things to do, although I would love to push her down now, it's not the time. I've already shot so many loads into her tail." "Have you finished your changes?" he asked with a deep voice, his mind lingering in that dark world where he met his father and mother. I don't think much changes. I just got a little faster, hee. My butt seems a bit fatter though, look." Lilith began to shake her behind as the thick meat swayed and jiggled slightly. She thrust out her ass, seeming to try teasing him, but Raven just gave her a rough slap before lifting and slapping her again. "Come on, this can be done later. Get your dress back on properly, we have goblins to kill." Lilith nodded as they stood together, her body now covered, but the faint blush on her face and body remained from the exhilarating hours they spent together. Different from Raven's first awakening, her body didn't change too much, only becoming more feminine. Her eyes became more vibrant and transparent like crystals shimmering in the sunlight. As she said, her ass became more extensive. Yet, her breasts remained the same, causing her to pout, wondering if this was Raven's preference. Raven shook his head and lifted onto one leg while stretching out the cramped muscles in his back and shoulders as Lilith followed suit with the other leg. He slowly stood up on shaky legs while stretching out his back. He felt something different but couldn't focus on what it was as he thought Lilith was playing behind him, her hands sliding along his body. "Oh, Raven's tail is so thick and sturdy." Lilith squealed when she felt it slide between her thighs and slap against her belly. It was thick like high muscular thighs and almost 2 meters long as it curled around her waist as if by instinct, lifting Lilith off the ground. "Hee, so strong. I have a tail. What else changed?" Raven thought as he looked back at the floating Lilith. The pair began to approach the door to the next room while Raven started to play with his new tail. It was just like he said before, rather than Lilith's soft and agile tail, he was thick and robust. Tapping the ground caused the rocks to bounce, the dirt to explode with a loud thud. Raven placed his hand on the door and slowly opened it. After he pushed it open, he found something strange. The room wasn't the same as when he last came. There were no floating platforms and a lower floor, but a large arena, a room with a new challenge, a goblin horde of over 20. Enough for a party of 4 members. Giant pillars held up an oval-shaped platform about 30 meters across, with large holes dug into the floor regularly, making it seem like an arena for fighting or training. The walls were made of large stones carved into runes and designs. 2 doors led out from this room towards the exit. The platform appeared above them to be set up for people of different sizes. The ceiling constantly moved while they watched. It looked like an entrance door was being lowered into place from above. After several minutes of watching, the platform was almost complete. "Are you ready to fight, Lilith? This will be hard." "Ha! It's just some goblins, besides. I've got you, hee. She smiled at him and winked happily before causing him to laugh awkwardly and shake his head. She went ahead and pushed forward toward the goblins while he followed closely behind her. The platform began to lower down into place bit by bit as her body fluttered in a pink burst of blossoms, the goblins unaware as she crawled along the side of the support pillars, purple eyes watching them intently. Raven smiled bitterly as she was safely hidden, her little eye sometimes looking towards him as if wondering why he wasn't attacking yet. "This girl seems to love fighting even more than me." His tall body stretched once more, the slight crack of his bones tightening his muscles as his body turned a dark black shade, the wisps of energy almost crackling as a bolt of neon lightning began to arc around his legs. "I wonder if my movement skill is as cool as hers." Raven thought as he began moving the purple energy into his knees and feet before stepping off the entrance platform with a leap. The ground shook violently under him before his body shot forward like a bullet from a gun. His feet were rapid as they moved more than triple his average speed. Sparks flew around him as he landed on solid ground with an almost audible thud. Raven twisted his body as the nearest goblin was crushed into a paste by his brutal tail smashing into its torso. His thick black club-like tail seemed to be plated with metal-like scales. Raven watched as the group of 20 goblins began to howl and yell. Their bodies wore rags and poor equipment. Leather armor patched together with bandages or cloths covering their skin, some even had no helmets or shields. The goblin horde took off, running at him from all directions. He flowed with back energy, twisting to avoid their lunging blades while spinning around his tail, blocking their slashes as bright sparks exploded. Suddenly, several goblins charged toward him simultaneously. Raven turned around mid-attack again while striking at their heads one after another until they were all covered in black blood spurting from their severed heads. While spinning around again, he saw Lilith standing before him. This girl, why isn't she joining in? Raven thought, his body taking several blows as the goblins began to assault him en masse. Come on Lilith, he whispered into thin air while kicking out at a couple of goblins trying to tackle him from behind. The pair was sent flying by an electric bolt from under them before they crashed into a wall with loud cracks echoing throughout the room. Damn, this takes a lot off my willpower to maintain. Shit. He complained as the purple lighting began to crackle, fading into darkness. His eyes focused, and using his tail like a club, he blocked their strikes and sent their bodies flying backwards with powerful swings. Just as a goblin's spear was about to pierce his head from behind, there was a sudden gust of wind. He felt a howling scream shooting past his ears, before turning to see the cause, as Lilith was now on the other side of the room, her hands holding the severed head of a goblin. I didn't even sense her moving. Lilith's face looked relatively neutral, there was no delight or joy on her face as she narrowed her eyes and made a low posture, her thin but sharp tail swaying behind her. The goblins screamed, their brethren killed like mere trash, dashing away as a loud thud began to sound. With each step, the ground seemed to rumble and shudder. What's happening? Raven asked as he saw Lilith's body dashing from pillar to pillar. Her brutal killing methods sucked them dry, snapped their necks and enjoyed their essence while they were living. It seemed more gruesome than when she used to devour them when dead. This girl. Is this the essence of a manticore? He began to rush forward, trying to keep up with her. His movement skill was more of a jog, while Lilith's was a sprint as his blue eyes began to shine, seeing the vast figure bursting through the second exit of the arena. A loud bang of its steps, while the steel bars were treated like paper as its huge hands snapped them like twigs. Tall, obese, green and with tusks, it was some goblin evolution as it locked eyes with Raven, ignoring Lilith, who was currently killing the small goblins in a bloody massacre, her face and body painted black with their blood and organs.